evening at 6 o'clock on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. You can also catch us streaming on WNRI.com. Go to the WNRI.com website, scroll down about 2/3 of the way, and you'll see a little window there that has a long URL. You want to copy that, go up to the top of the screen again, post it, and then or paste it, and then you'll be able to stream our show. This show is uploaded to Spotify as a podcast about an hour after the show ends, and it's also rebroadcast every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. So there are lots of different ways that you can catch up on the latest real estate news, because this show is for you. It's a show for consumers. I try to stay away from technical jargon and making it more complicated and intimidating. I want to make it just really straight up and easy to understand and easy to digest, because it's stressful enough, the whole process of buying and selling a home. But if you can get a fundamental understanding of what's going on with the market and what drives prices and mortgage rates, if you have a level of familiarity with that, then you can start to make decisions and observations that can be more productive in your life, and hopefully be more lucrative if you buy smart. My goal as a realtor is that my clients be educated. So I add value to the transaction in many ways, but one of the first things I do is I educate my clients so that they are aware of what's going on, why things are going on, why are houses in this area more expensive than houses in this area, why are some houses taking longer to sell than others, et cetera, et cetera. And that being said, I want to go over some of the data for the state of Rhode Island. Our monthly average single-family homes, the number we typically have is 760. That's the number of single-family homes on average that are listed for sale in Rhode Island. For a little perspective, when we were in a quote-unquote normal market, more balanced market, that number was well over 2,000, about 2,400. We have on average about 518 sales every month. 981 homes go pending. House goes pending after a buyer and seller come to an agreement on the terms, price and terms, contingencies to purchase a home. And then inspections and appraisals are conducted. And if everything comes back hunky-dory, the property is sold, it closes. Not all home sales or listings that go pending close. All right. Right now we have about 1 month of inventory, and a balanced market is 6 months of inventory. So we're well shy of that. And that's why it still remains a seller's market. It's still a seller's market. What is interesting, though, is even though it's a seller's market, homes on average have a sales price to list price ratio of 98%. So that means the average sales price is 2% lower than the list price. All right. And then the average days on market is actually, it's funny, it feels like it's higher than this. It's 19. Now, this number was lower before. Many homes I tell my clients, figure 30 days. Sometimes I can get a home under agreement within a matter of days, but it all depends on the home. So the average days on market is 19. That's been pretty consistent the past couple of months. And it feels, anecdotally, myself and some other realtors, colleagues that I've been speaking with, it feels like the market is transitioning a bit, slowing down a bit. That's just the way it feels. It seems like homes are taking a little bit longer to sell. I try to prepare my sellers that when we put your home on the market, maybe it will sell quickly, but prepare for a good 30 days on market before we put it under agreement. Okay. Because that may be the case, maybe not, but, and that is not very long. I was talking with a colleague of mine, And he said he listed a house and it hadn't sold in a week, and the seller was very nervous. They were getting concerned because the house hadn't gone under agreement yet. That's not unusual. Okay, even 19 days on the market, that's still a very short period of time. Back, 10, 12 years ago, it was not uncommon for homes to be listed for 30, 60, 90 days before they went under agreement. The difference is now we have more buyers than sellers, so they are going more quickly. And even the homes that take longer to sell because they have something that's not attractive to the average buyer. Maybe it's a contemporary home. Maybe it needs a lot of work. Maybe it doesn't have a modern flow to it, the floor plan. Eventually, someone will say, I will buy this house, and I'll just, because I can't find anything else, and they're tired of paying exorbitant rental rates, and they want to, or they have to find something to get out of the home they're in, and they'll do that. Now, even though anecdotally it seems like the market is transitioning, and again, I don't want to say, I say slowing down, but I don't mean to say like it's slow. It's just, it's not as brisk as it was. And, that may be a little bit, a little bit because it's summer, the 4th of July holiday. Some people took time off. They're not looking as intently or intensively as they were before. But what seems to be happening now is that the mortgage interest rates are starting to retreat a little bit from the over 7% rate. Now, when I go to my trusty website, Mortgage News Daily, a 30-year fixed rate today is 7.01%. So call it 7%. FHA 6.49, VA, both 30 years, 6.5%. So these rates have been, excuse me, the FHA and VA have been fairly consistent. The 30-year fixed rate conventional mortgage, those were, 2 or 3 tenths of a point higher, or 20 or 30 basis points higher last week than they are right now. So that seems to be coming back a little bit. So this may be because, the jobs numbers aren't as robust as some folks seem to were anticipating. And that is significant because what's been happening the past several months is that the numbers that are reported for the jobs report, they get 20, 30, 40 days later, they get dialed back. So they're even less strong than they were when they first came out. They're adjusted. So we had a little bit of a softening of the jobs report. So perhaps that will be revised downward again within the next month. So it will be an even softer jobs report. So if things like this start to happen, what does that mean for housing? What does that mean for mortgages? Well, we have a long way to go before our unemployment rate gets out of hand and we start to really experience high unemployment. But what this could mean is, while it may not impact the number of buyers right now compared to sellers, it may prompt the Fed to perhaps pull back on interest rates. So maybe that will be another reason that they should reduce the Fed funds rate. This may be a reason for banks to lower or pull back on mortgage rates. Okay. I personally don't think that that's going to happen because inflation is still here. And it's my belief and my observation historically that when we have inflation, mortgage rates will not be reduced. Okay. So that's something that will be interesting to track as we march through the summer. So we're past the 4th of July, so it seems like we're officially in the second half of summer now. So we'll see what's going to happen with home sales and the intensity with which buyers are pursuing listings. And we'll take it as it comes. Hope for the best, expect the worst, take what comes. and we'll see what happens. I want to take a moment, it's about 16 past the hour, to thank our sponsors. Of course, Compass Title and Escrow, Anthony Betancourt, Camille Bendinelli, and Christine Weber are the crackerjack team over there that does a good job taking care of our buyers and sellers. GMETS Moving and Storage. Check them out at gmetsmoving.com. That's G as in George, M as in Michael, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, Z as in Zebra, moving.com. You can go to the website to get a price on moving, to schedule a move, or just to start the process of investigating and asking questions about moving your furniture, or even if it's not moving from point A to point B, but just relocating furniture within the home. And what's great too is I have a client who's going to be using them. I just listed his property, his condominium, and it's in Burrville, so it's a single level condominium. It'll be priced at $415,000, and I gave him GMETs because he's not going to need or have space for all of his furniture in his new home. So he's going to want to put some in storage and then sell it from the storage facility. And GMETs has the ability to store your belongings, whether it's for a day or two or longer term storage. They can help you out with that. That's gmetsmoving.com. Please check them out and mention the Joe Luca Real Estate Show when you talk to someone. And then, of course, Vern Rainville. You know, we've had a lot of crazy weather. Of course, today it's been hazy, hot, and humid, but we've had crazy rain. We've had a lot of wind. Trees have been blown down. If you have a claim or a potential claim on your homeowner's insurance policy, call Vern Rainville. He is a public insurance adjuster, 484-300-8495. That's 484-300-8495. Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster. He works for the property owner, not the insurance company. Not the insurance company. So he will help you receive everything that you are entitled to receive on your based on your policy, your homeowner's policy. That's Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster. So if you have any questions, 484-300-8495, Vern Rainville. He does a great job. I've referred lots of clients, had people use him, and they're all very happy with his services. Okay. And so it's the summer, it's hazy, it's hot, it's humid. I know I've been trying to do work in my yard, gardening, staying on top of keeping the lawn mowed, etc. But it's not too early to start thinking about fall, autumn, things you need to start to do to prepare for autumn. Okay. One of the things you can do now, and it's actually a good time to do it because even though it's hot and humid outside, you can go in the basement. Typically it's cooler in your basement, and start to organize the basement. All right. One of the great sources of clutter in the basement is old clothes and seasonal items, just the kind of stuff that winds up in the basement. Okay. You have stuff you haven't worn for a long time, so it goes in containers or in a closet or something in the basement and just stays there. This is a good time where you can start to go through that. It's cool in the basement. And you can just gather that stuff up, throw it in a plastic bag, and take it to, Salvation Army, Savers, Goodwill, whatever your choice is. St. Vincent de Paul. Okay. And this will obviously yield you more space, which is always helpful. But then you'll also, in the big picture, save time, and then could even knock back I don't know if this is a technical term or not, but clutter-related depression, okay, where people, they get depressed because there's so much clutter in their home. And sometimes, in my observation, it's like you see people that are in situations, and they continue to collect stuff and pile it floor to ceiling, and you can't keep the house clean. Um, it's not good to have that high level of clutter just for your own sanity and for your own happiness. You don't want to have clutter related depression. All right. So you want to start to basically declutter, get rid of the things that you're not using, clothes, and things like that. Um, After you do that, you may notice, depending on how much clutter you eliminated, that wow, you have all this space. Maybe you want to think about finishing the basement or improving or somehow adding value to your basement so it's more usable. All right. The solution to a cramped house many times is finding more livable space, usable square footage in your existing home. And a lot of times you can do that in your basement. So if you have an unfinished basement, many times you don't even have to fully finish it, but you can clean it up, you can gussy it up so that it's more usable, more attractive. Paint the foundation. If you can't afford to do a real good finish, paint the foundation walls like a bright white. Okay. You can throw down some of those foam tiles on the floor so it looks a little better. And then you could make it into a media room, an exercise room. And so now you have more usable space. You could make it into a home office. So you could have a little bit of everything in all of those. Um, I hesitate to say, some people say, well, you can maybe rent it out. I hesitate to say that as a realtor because your home may not be zoned to rent that space out as a bedroom, especially if you only have one means of egress. But when you finish your basement, that's a great way to add value to your home and build equity. Okay. So that will increase the home's resale value. So I always, when I have a home, and of course now nice homes are like hen's teeth. They're in short supply. They go quickly. But sometimes what makes a difference to a buyer is if you get a house and it's like, well, yes, I'm paying a lot of money for this home, but I can finish the basement and add value to it because then it'll have more square footage, more usable area. Now, the square footage in the basement, because it's below grade, is not valued as highly as above grade space, but it will add value. Okay, so it'll have a lower per square foot value, but it will add value to your home. So, look at the long game. It's not something you have to do right now. You can start off by just cleaning it up, painting the walls or the foundation a bright color, throwing down some of those, the rubber or foam tiles. The Rubbermaid makes material that you can use that on your basement floor, right over the concrete floor. And then, eventually when you get some more money, you can actually finish the basement. Okay. First, you want to make sure that you do not have a dampness or water intrusion situation in your basement. You do not want to spend thousands of dollars finishing your basement and then realize, oh no, I have a water coming into through the foundation, or I have water coming up from the ground, or water coming in through the basement windows. You want to assess all of that before you spend any money. Okay. And if you've listened to this show for a while, I always advise people, homeowners, just periodically, once a week, every other week, walk around your house, the outside of the house, and go to the inside, walk around the basement, see if anything has changed. Okay. If it's something like shrubs growing too close to the home, you want to keep about 2 feet of distance between the foundation and vegetation. If it's tree branches rubbing up against your gutters or against the siding or against the roof, your shingles, you want to get those cut back. These are things, folks, that change. Okay, that tree that's 20 feet away from your house, those branches can grow long enough to touch your house after a period of years. So you don't want it to do that because it will create problems. The additional shade close to your home means that the dampness after it rains will not dry out as readily. So now you have dampness close to the home. That could mean you'll have fungus growing on or algae growing on your siding. Okay. Maybe if the water in the soil and the earth doesn't dry out, maybe you'll have problems with moisture up against your basement, your foundation, and penetrating those walls. So these are some things, that, again, a little bit of effort, okay, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of initiative can really help save money down the road and improve and increase the value of your home. So organize the basement, number one, then look into finishing the basement or somehow making it more usable, because the more livable and usable space you have in your home, the better it is for you. But then when you go to sell the home, it will add the value, okay? Now, if you're going to be painting the foundation walls or any other walls, try to buy paint on sale, all right? Paint savings can be the steepest during off-peak painting seasons, and that's typically fall and winter. All right, so you can still find some savings this time of year, but you've got to be a little bit more, I guess, diligent, consistent with your efforts. Okay, experts disagree. Some people, it's nice and dry in the winter, so that's good. In the summer, it's hotter and more humid, so it may take longer for paint to dry. You don't want it to be too hot, just want it to be warm. Just like in the winter, you don't want it to be too cold. So presumably you're not going to be painting outside in the winter. So if you're painting indoors, that shouldn't be a problem. But it's nicer and better to paint when the humidity is lower. And it certainly is lower in the winter than it is in the summer. Also, you can work indoors. Now, if you're painting in the summer indoors and you have air conditioning, okay, that removes the issue of the humidity and the heat. But maybe what you want to do is go and cruise through paint shops, the big box stores, local hardware stores, and just track the price of paint. See if anything's going to be going on sale, if they're offering any coupons or anything like that. So that way you can stock up when it's less expensive. And then as long as you think you're going to get to it in the next few months, keep the paint on hand and save the money. So when you have the time, you already have the paint that you bought at a good price, you'll be able to do that. Okay. So again, it's always better to be ready to have everything on hand when your schedule allows you to do the painting. Okay. Something else, this goes back to item one, when you're organizing your basement and getting rid of things, pay attention, because one of the things personally, I guess I'm a little bit of a tree hugger in this regard. I hate throwing stuff away that still has utility, usefulness. And maybe I don't need it, but I don't like to just throw it in the garbage, because then it's going to go into the landfill. Somebody could probably use that. So if that's the case, if it's something that could be used, like something that's recyclable, okay, take it to a recycling center. Okay. So if it's, a facility like we have here in Woonsocket, where you can bring your electronics and other things, you can recycle them, do that. Again, we talked about recycling clothing to a St. Vincent de Paul or a Salvation Army or something like that. So you don't just throw it into the dump, the landfill, because we're running out of space for our landfills. Okay. And, recycled, old bottles, recycled. We're fortunate in Rhode Island, we have single stream recycling. So wherever you live, you have two containers for the garbage men, and one is to recycle things. Put as much stuff into that recycling bin as possible. Okay. Because those are things that are not going into our landfill. And folks, when our landfill, fills up, when we don't have any more land, any more space at our landfill, then we're going to have to pay to have it disposed of elsewhere. A lot of times what people are doing now is they're having their solid waste disposed of in old coal mines in Pennsylvania. Okay. So, that's something that you want to think about that. If there's any way you can recycle, repurpose, if you have old pieces of furniture, things like that, bring it to, again, Salvation Army or flea market at the church, for church sales, things like that. These are opportunities for someone else to utilize the item. And maybe it's someone who can't afford to buy something new, so they'll be able to get something, that old chair, that old table. They'll be able to have something and get it for short money, as they say. Okay. Folks, it's about 28 minutes before the hour. You're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. You can also catch us on WNRI.com, streaming. Just scroll down about 2/3 of the way. You'll see a long URL in a window. Copy that, paste it at the top of the page, top of the window, and then you'll be able to listen to us streaming. You can catch my show as a podcast on Spotify. Just look for The Cup of Joe Luca or Joe Luca Real Estate Show. And we also rebroadcast this show every Saturday at 1 p.m. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. So you can catch us there too. Now, if you have any questions about real estate, give me a call, 401-580-9797. You can also text me at that number. That's 401-580-9797. That's my personal cell phone number. I want to talk a little bit about some listings that I have that may be of interest. Okay, I have a nice home in Cranston, right off of Plainfield Pike. It's a nice 3-bedroom, 1-bath home, situated nice and high, 1-car garage. So you won't have to worry about water in this home because it's much higher than street level. So all the water that when it comes down will be draining off of your home and down into the street. So that's a nice home that is on Woodland Avenue. Nice 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-bath house. Then I also have a home that just came on the market. We're going to be starting to show it tomorrow. This is in Providence in the Washington Park area. So it's close to Johnson and Wales. It's close to the boat marinas over there, yacht club, close to Roger Williams Park and Zoo. It's on a couple of, there are bus lines that are over there. You can walk to the ocean from this house. It's on Alabama Avenue. There's another 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath home. Off-street parking, nice deck in the backyard, freshly painted, beautiful hardwood floors, replacement windows, great roof. And this is a nice home too, priced at $395,000. Really nice home in the Washington Park area of Providence, right down the Cranston line. Okay. And then I'm also getting, this is one of my VIP listings. Okay. It's not open to the public. You have to call me. It's a condominium, and this is in Northern Rhode Island. It's a 2-bed, bath and a half, 1-car garage. If it's something you think you're interested in, give me a ring. Again, 401-580-9797. You can have pets. You can have cats and dogs under 25 pounds. This is priced at $415,000. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in, this is not going to last long. So please let me know if you're interested. 401-580-9797. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have about that. One of the first things that I advise all of my clients to do is get a pre-approval. I have several different mortgage lenders that I work with. We have Don Miller from North Point Bank. I have Dave Campagnon from Main Street Home Loans. I have Joe Baptista from Anchor Mortgage. Just some great lenders that we work with who deal with all kinds of properties. And that will be one of the first things we'll do so that you can, you'll get an understanding of how much house you can afford, and then how much house do you want to buy. You don't always need to buy what you are approved for. Okay. Sometimes folks today. They're a little bit more conservative, and they might be approved for a $500,000 home, but they don't want to spend more than $450,000, and that's perfectly understandable. So if you have any questions about how to start the process of getting ready to buy a home or sell a home, again, my number 401-580-9797. You can also text me 401-580-9797. That's my number, Joe Luca, Luca. And if you just have questions for me, call me up. Answers are free, no obligation. I will explain everything to you. Of course, I will explain to you what I do to add value to a transaction and hopefully be able to earn your business as a buyer or seller. Okay. But, one of the things that's important right now for people to understand is as this market is changing, it's changing on a couple of different levels. One, because of this federal lawsuit with the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors, agents now explain to the sellers when we list a property that Mr. or Mrs. Seller, this is the percentage for my compensation as your listing agent. A portion of that is paid to the buyer's agent. What that means is when another realtor brings in a buyer to look at the home, if a deal is consummated, a portion of the listing, the percentage, is shared, paid to the buyer's agent. So hypothetically, I list a property and I'm charging X percent for my compensation. I advise the seller that if he wants, a portion of that can go to the buyer's agent. It doesn't have to be anything. The seller could say, you know what, Joe, I don't want to pay anything to the buyer's agent. I only want to pay you. And I would abide by that. Okay, but as the market is transitioning, maybe we want to attract as many buyers as possible. So we would want to encourage people to come to the home. The flip side of that is if you are a buyer, and you should always work with a buyer's agent, and in so doing, you are going to be asked, you're required to sign one form by law. It's a real estate relationship disclosure form. Okay, Massachusetts and Rhode Island, that is a state law. You have to sign that. And that would mean that the realtor is representing you as a designated client representative for you as buyer or a seller if you're selling a home. And they'll look out for your best interests and represent you to the best of their ability. Provide ethical, professional services. Or as a transaction facilitator. So let's say I'm a listing agent and then I have a buyer. If I'm representing the seller as a designated seller representative, I can't also represent the buyer in that capacity. I would be a transaction facilitator for the buyer. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, I would still have to represent that buyer honestly, ethically, professionally, handle all of their paperwork and monies with the utmost care. However, the difference is I do not have a fiduciary obligation to that party. Okay. So if it's the buyer or seller and I'm a transaction facilitator, I do not have a fiduciary relationship with that client. Okay. Now, if you're on the buyer side and you meet with your agent and they say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you have to sign this form by law, the relationship disclosure form. And then there's this other form, which is an exclusive buyer agreement form. This is a relatively new concept for many realtors in this part of the country. We've had the form for a while, but it's a relatively new concept. What this means is the realtor would explain to the buyer John Doe, Jane Doe, I will represent you as your buyer agent. You will work exclusively with me. I will help you find a home in this geographical area over this period of time. And if we find a home, we negotiate the terms and the price, and we go to closing, I need to receive X% for my compensation because I can't work for free. Now, if the seller had told his listing agent that he or she is willing to pay the buyer's agent, okay, great. So the seller is saying, well, I will pay a buyer's agent X. Well, if I need to get X plus Y from my compensation, what my buyer would require is they would only have to pay me the Y because the seller is paying me the X. Now, if the seller is paying 0 to the buyer's agent, my buyer would have to pay me X plus Y at closing. Now, there are many different ways that this can be, these monies can be identified and can be paid. But it's important that everyone understands where the monies are going, where the monies are coming from. Okay. And it's something, if you do not understand it, or your agent or potential agent does not explain it to you in a clear and concise manner, do not be bashful. Ask them to explain it again. Okay. It's very important that everyone understands this. Now, what I tell my buyers is, listen, if we look at a house and you really like this house, we can ask the seller to pay my commission, my compensation. But if we do that, and then another buyer comes in and that buyer is paying their agent directly, so they don't have to ask the seller to pay the buyer's agent, everything being equal, which buyer is the seller going to sell to? The one he or she does not have to pay. So I try to explain to I explain to my buyers that by having this agreement and the buyer expressing that they will pay the compensation to the buyer agent for up to this point, this percentage, that makes the offer much more attractive when it comes time for that situation. And I know that because I've had buyers and we have these agreements, and when I don't have to ask the seller to contribute to my compensation, I know that has made the difference between my buyers receiving the house, their offer getting accepted, or not. Okay. So while people sometimes say, well, I don't want to have to pay my agent. Well, this is how I put food on the table, pay my bills. Okay. How we pay the mortgage at our house. I can't work for free. And I don't think anybody who's listening can work for free either. So I need to be compensated for my time, my market knowledge, my experience, my expertise, my negotiation skills. These are things that skills that I've developed and that I've honed over the past 18 years. So that's a lot of value that I bring to the table. And if I can negotiate something to save you 5%, 10% in your transaction, I've more than earned my compensation. That's why I always try to explain how I add value to transactions, whether it's the buyer side or the seller side. Okay. Folks, it's about 14 minutes before the hour. You're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. We broadcast every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. rebroadcast Saturdays at 1 p.m. right here from the heart of Woonsocket, Rhode Island in the Blackstone River Valley. Historic Woonsocket. We have a lot of history here. It's a great mill town back in the 1800s, early 1900s. Through much of the 1900s, it was also a center for French-Canadian culture. When I was a little kid, I didn't spend much time here. I grew up in North Providence, but there was still French being spoken on the streets. A lot of the stores had sold their wares and had signs that were in both languages. So there's a lot of great history from our past right here in the city of Woonsocket. And we actually, going off on tangent here, but we actually back 160, 170 years ago, Abraham Lincoln visited Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Okay, we have a lot of history here, and I've spent time here, talked to a lot of people, learned a lot about it. We have a great city here, and everyone who lives here or even lives nearby, I live one town over, we should be proud of everything that the great city of Woonsocket has to offer folks in northern Rhode Island and southern Massachusetts. Okay, we have some dedicated individuals who've thrown their hat into the ring for politics. Okay, Councilman Gendron was on a previous show, and we have a lively political season coming up with the mayoral election and some city council races and some legislative races. I encourage you to pay attention. I encourage you to engage in the political process. You don't have to run for office, but pay attention. Listen to talk radio. Go to events. When people are on, don't be bashful. Call the station. Don't be bashful. If you know who your elected representatives are, send them an email, call them up, let them know how you feel about issues. Because we deserve what we get in this country when it comes to politicians. And it's horrible when we have people that are complaining loudly about politicians, but then when you ask them if they vote, they say, "Oh no, I don't vote." Well, you have to shut your trap then. Be quiet. You don't have a right to complain because you did not you didn't express your voice. You didn't use your voice to express your political desires. It's very important. This show is dedicated to talking about real estate. We've talked about insurance, property taxes, maintenance, zoning. We've had a lot of information that we share with you, the consumer. And one of the most important things, one of the most significant things that impacts real estate is policy, political policy. What our politicians say and do that positively or negatively impacts home prices, home values, the ability to build homes, the ease with which one can own a home and sell a home. Pay attention. The only organization that lobbies to protect the rights of homeowners, private property ownership rights, is the National Association of Realtors. This is the largest trade organization in the country. We have about 1.5 million members. So we have a lot of sway with our politicians in Washington, D.C. We can lobby, or we do lobby, not can, we lobby for the benefit that homeowners can continue to deduct mortgage interest, state and local taxes on federal tax returns. If we did not lobby for that, every homeowner would be paying more taxes, more federal taxes. So homeowners owe a big thank you to the National Association of Realtors. I know a lot of folks in the media and elsewhere have been using the National Association of Realtors as kind of a whipping post, complaining about everything. Well, we're an organization made up of flawed humans, and mistakes are made. They will always be made. But one thing we do is we try to protect private property ownership rights, and we lobby for the benefit not just of our members, but of homeowners nationwide. There's no other organization, no trade association that lobbies for homeowners. There's a home builders association, there's a mortgage bankers association, but they don't lobby for homeowners. We do. We do. And it's important that you lobby for yourself. Become engaged, pay attention to what's going on. This is an election year, and we have municipal elections right here in Woonsocket, and we have federal elections and state elections this November. I can't say it enough. Become engaged, pay attention. Do not be bashful. Do not be timid or shy about sending an email, calling up someone at their office. These folks work for you, the citizens. Okay? Let them know how you feel on issues. Sometimes I feel like, when we had Congressman Cicilline, I was not the biggest fan of him, but I was always sending emails. I would call up and let them. I felt like I was almost on a first name basis with his aides. Gabe Ammo, the same thing. I'm developing a relationship with his office too. He does some good things, but there are some things I'm not a fan of. We do not need to punish homeowners. We do not need to punish or penalize native-born folks because of some federal policy. And I try to express that to Congressman Ammo whenever he sends me an email with how he feels on certain issues. Okay. But folks, again, please become engaged. Pay attention. Call your council person up in the city. Call the mayor's office up. Call your state rep, your state senator. Let them know how you feel on issues. And don't be one of those, they always hear from people about abortion and Second Amendment rights. Call up for the other issues. Even if you don't have a position, call them up and ask them what their position is on a particular issue. Oh, how are you? What do you think about that new piece of legislation that's sponsored by so-and-so in the House and the legislature in Rhode Island? Are you for that or are you against it? Oh, why? You can use it as an opportunity to build a relationship with your political representative, and you can also educate yourself. Okay. Folks, if you have any questions on this, even though this has nothing to do with real estate directly, don't be shy. You can give me a call. I'll find numbers for you, or who you need to call, what their phone number is, what their email is. Just give me a call, 401-580-9797. That's 401-580-9797. And I'll answer any questions that you have about how you should become engaged in the political process. Okay. Jumping back to real estate, since this is a real estate show, if you know anyone who's thinking about selling their home in the next month, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, give me a call, 401-580-9797, 401-580-9797. And I can give you a free template on things to do to prepare your home for sale. Okay, free template, things to do to prepare your home for sale. And I will even offer my services for free consultation on whether, if you want to learn, should I spend money on this or not? Should I spend money on this or not? Because you don't want to spend money unnecessarily. Okay. My number, 401-580-9797. That's Joe, Luca, Luca. I work at a company called Remax. And Remax, no one in the world sells more real estate than Remax. We are number one. And I like working at Remax because we're very recognizable, and many times the top agents in the country are Remax agents. I like to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, that are better than I am, so I can learn from them. Okay. Folks, we're coming up to the end of our hour. Time always flies by for the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors, GMETS Moving and Storage. Please give them a shout. Check them out at gmetsmoving.com. That's G as in George, M as in Michael, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, Z as in Zebra, moving.com. You can get a price to move if it's furniture from one side of the house to the other, or move your entire home from Woonsocket to Westerly or beyond. GMETS Moving can help you out. The number one mover in southern New England. They do a great job. Also, I want to thank Vern Rainville. Vern Rainville is a public insurance adjuster. He works for you, the property owner, not the insurance company. Insurance adjusters work for an insurance company, but when they're a public insurance adjuster, that's the operative word, public, they work for the property owner. Okay. So, Vern Rainville, 484-300-8495, 484-300-8495. You know, even if you have a claim that was 6 months ago or maybe even a year ago, you're not sure if it's a real claim or not, give Vern a call. He'll let you know. 484-300-8495. He has a ton of experience. He's great at helping people out and helping you receive all the monies you're entitled to for your claim or potential claim against your homeowner's policy. Okay. And then, of course, Compass Title and Escrow. Anthony Betancourt, Camille Bandinelli, and Christine Weber, Crackerjack team, they do a great job taking care of our buyers and sellers. We appreciate their support. Folks, we will be back next Tuesday evening. I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. If you have any questions, 401-580-9797. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey, guys, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.